afternoon. We're committed to demystifying the mobile wallet between now and 12:45. So that will also demystify the rumble that perhaps is building in your stomach for lunch. Good afternoon. My name is Dekkers Davidson. I joined, and I'm the head of the mobile commerce business at Barclays Bank US. I joined Barclays a year ago from the technology and mobile world, and I've had experience with several business startups. Barclays, just by way of introduction, is a co-branded credit card and financial services institution, so we're very brand-centric, and we come to the whole world of mobile commerce with an attitude and posture to figure out how to develop retail-friendly solutions. We're very active in the mobile payments and commerce space, not only in the US, but in the UK, Europe, and South Africa. Today's panel is about demystifying the mobile wallet, and we have 4 panelists, I think, who are well-equipped to do that. 1849, a bunch of prospectors set off from San Francisco to find gold in the Klondike, and before they headed to the hills, they actually had to find those who could help provision that gold rush. We have 4, I think, very capable provisioners of this latest gold rush, and let me introduce them, and then we'll get into the questions. On your left is Jon Squire. Jon has been in the mobile wallet space for over 5 years, working with merchants, carriers, and financial institutions. In his previous life, he was responsible for working with Starbucks to crack the code in mobile commerce, which became the first mobile payments play in the US. Today, I think in many minds, still the gold standard. In Jon's current role, he combines the assets of SK Telecom and knowledge of mobile commerce, and has a team here in North America focused on partners that include, or working with partners including First Data, Google, and InComm. Next to Jon's right is Dustin Young, who's Vice President of Strategy for InComm. InComm is the leader in prepaid products, such as gift cards, that you see in many retail stores. InComm has direct rails to retail point-of-sale systems to activate those cards. He's been focused on using those rails to support payments and promotions for several years. He is in partnership as well with CorFire. To Dustin's right is Amit Malhotra, who's the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Device Fidelity, which was founded in 2007. And his business is focused on enabling NFC on most consumer devices. And recently, Device Fidelity launched Monetto, a direct-to-consumer NFC wallet. And then finally, to the far right on the stage is Robert Ziegler, who is CEO of Corduro. He's a serial entrepreneur and technology veteran in the payments industry going back to the mid-1980s. He started Corduro to turn the payment industry model inside out to make it easy for everyone to be able to pay and take payments from anyone, anytime, anywhere. His shorthand expression is that Corduro is the Texas company that's going to round up Square. So here we have it, our 4 panelists, and please join me in welcoming them to the stage. The format we'd like to use in the next half hour is as follows. I'd like to pose a handful of questions to the panelists, but then I'd like to open it up to the floor. So please be ready with your questions, and then we'll conclude by asking each of the panelists to give kind of a 1-minute summary and wrap up. So let's start, since we're here to talk about demystifying the mobile wallet, by asking the basic question, what is a wallet? And Jon, maybe you could begin.
Yeah, it's unfortunately been in my title for 7 or 8 years, and I still have a hard time defining it. I think if you look at the space we serve, right, if you talk to the institutionals, the merchants, the financial services providers, carriers, they'll give you one definition. I think what we come back to is really focusing on the customer, and the customer, at least in the trials and tribulations we've been through, typically views this device as the wallet rather than any one app or any one aggregation of services. And we've seen that through both the Starbucks model and some other models where people are very comfortable having 4 or 5 brands that they interact with on a daily basis, whether or not that's a merchant or an FI. And whether or not they call it a wallet doesn't really matter. It's what they do with it on that transaction piece. So very sort of roundabout way of not defining what a wallet is. But I would say it's the device itself and the content that's on it. What you'll see is a lot of people not willing to give up the actual device because of the content, and that's when it becomes interesting.
Yeah. Dustin, what is a wallet and why should retailers care?
Well, I'll take a crack at defining it very specifically in 3 words. It's an interactive payment vehicle. And I think the most important of those 3 words is the word interactive. And oftentimes we lose sight of the fact that it is interactive, right? A consumer pulls it out. When you pay with cash, when you pay with a credit card, you're not interacting with that vehicle. A wallet, on the other hand, you've got the opportunity to deliver brand impressions. You've got the opportunity to deliver a marketing message, a discount, a coupon. So it's this thing, be it a mobile phone or be it whatever physical device it resides on, with which I am interacting in order to redefine how I pay at a retail location or online. So I really think that's what it is, an interactive payment vehicle.
Interactive payment vehicle. Amit.
I'll take on from where you guys left off. I think what the physical wallet right now is, if you look at what's in your back pockets, it serves two purposes: identification and a means for making a financial transaction at either person-to-person or retail or any of those environments that you're in. So that's what the physical wallet is right now. So the most basic assumption around a wallet would be transferring that into a mobile device. And if you can do those two, identify the person correctly and make a financial transaction with that mobile device, you've got what is effectively a mobile wallet. But it doesn't end there. It's taking on your lead over there. Once you're in the mobile device, once making that tap and making the payment is not what the consumer is going to go for. That's not what the wallet experience is that they're looking for right now. You've got a $600 device that's in the consumer's hand that's got more processing power than what we had when we made the Apollo mission. Use that fact. Use the interactivity. Use the screen. Use the keyboard. Use the or lack thereof. Or use the internet connectivity. And the fact that you're interacting with that consumer at probably what's the most important time of a transaction, how do you leverage that as part of a wallet or an application or anything that you create around it, whatever you want to call it? That's what the wallet needs to be, and that's what demystifying it, that's where we're headed.
Robert, you've built a very interesting community-based solution. But what's a wallet and why should retailers care?
Well, I think retailers should care just for a very simple matter that whether there's payment cards in the wallet or in the relative to the app that's downloaded, the individual is participating with an organization, and in practice they're automatically becoming a member. And we talk about community in the Corduro community and organizations participating with us and nonprofits specifically. Those individuals are automatic members of us and of those organizations, and the affinity that they create as they transact with them. And so a wallet is today we think about purely as payment, as everyone here up front has talked about, but it is a lot more than that. It's converting that into, and think about it as membership. And we were talking briefly before the session started that, and I'll go back to, I think it's Janet with Walmart. We were talking about the cost from a treasury standpoint of interchange. It's a very interesting conversation if I ask the CMO of Walmart how much they spend on loyalty, and we blend that into the underlying cost of the transaction for enabling wallets so that there's ubiquity across all merchants. So it's no longer a conversation about whether it's a Visa card or a store issue card or ACH or some other mechanism for payment. It's a much different view that the underlying costs of those transactions are not just the interchange. It's the cost that the organization's paying to create membership that's automatically gained by having that wallet on the phone.
I think just to pile on to Robert's comments, that the commerce piece is the important piece, right? The payments is merely the period at the end of the sentence. It's how you get them there to read that sentence. And then it's, to your earlier point, it's about the one-to-one relationship that's now enabled for that brand, whether it be a merchant or a bank, to directly communicate with their customer on the go, which is the most important piece, right? Who was an anonymous customer, especially in a prepaid world, is now somebody you can communicate with while they're in your store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a fabulous opportunity to impact, to John's point, the customer decision, the customer behavior. You can't do that with cash. You can't do that with a credit card. But with a mobile wallet, you're actually able to affect the decisions the consumer makes at a very relevant point in time, which is a transformative aspect of the mobile wallet.
So we heard from several leading retailers that they were looking for both cost improvement, particularly on interchange, but also the revenue side. As you size up the benefits, where do you see the benefits to be the greatest? More on the revenue generation side, on the cost side? Is there a twofer here? How should retailers be thinking about the value of a mobile wallet from their perspective?
I'll take a stab at it. I think right now we're in a world where we have a consumer base that is comparing, at least a younger segment, that's comparing their retail buying experience to their online buying experience. And they've gotten used to what their online buying experience looks like, and it's actually pretty good. I get recommendations. I know what I'm, they keep a history of what I've bought. They know exactly what I'm thinking of buying. There's things that they're used to, the fact that I can click and something shows up at my doorstep in a couple of days. Those are things that they're getting used to. What the mobile wallet should be looking at is how do you translate some of those things that they've gotten used to in an online buying behavior into what is, what they really want to do. I mean, humans are still a social animal. Yeah, we'll buy something online, but going to a shopping store and, with your friends or something like that and buying something, touching, feeling, looking at a product, and getting that instant gratification of buying a product over there, that's still something that people want to do. But they're not getting that entire experience that they're getting used to when they're doing an online transaction where, there's recommendations where, hey, by the way, you bought this scarf and have you seen those shoes that go with it or something like that. That kind of interactivity, that upsell that could be created when you're in that transaction mindset is probably the most important thing that the retailer should be looking at. Second thing is, well, we talk about loyalty, we talk about coupons and things like that. Those are definitely, I think, from our perspective, those are always things that would be added on I mean, it's a given. If you don't add that in, you're not going to get the people back in.
I think when you look at the ROI, there's only a couple of use cases that are out there with public information. You look at Starbucks, and this is in the public domain. There were physical costs saved right around when you go to a virtual card program, obviously. There is reload amounts, which they've been sort of vague on, but we know that they've gone up in average and what the amounts are, the frequency. We know in less than 6 months, it became a $110 million reload channel for them. 1 out of every 4 transactions for them is mobile right now on their prepaid vehicle. And then you look at things like offers management, coupons, and the ROI starts piling up. But to your point, it is a twofer. There are some physical world realities when you convert to mobile that you get both sides of the upside of being able to communicate and the frequency with which the customer interacts with your brand, and the physical world economics don't necessarily apply. So we always encourage folks is obviously leverage the systems you have in place to create less friction to get to market, but also think about this new medium in a completely new way. To your earlier point, I mean, it's not just port online to mobile or physical to mobile. Mobile allows you to combine 3 or 4 different mediums, loyalty, prepaid, offers, into a completely new platform, and that's how we typically approach it.
So over time, the revenue benefit for a retailer will likely be far greater on the marketing side of things. I mean, reduced interchange, greater efficiencies, probably a great table stakes, right, to get into the game of a mobile wallet. But I don't think we've even scratched the surface with regard to the amount of value that can be poured into the ecosystem from, call it CPGs. I mean, if consumer product companies were to shift even 7 to 8% of their existing traditional FSI or couponing budget over to a mobile channel, that would completely reshape the payments industry. So I'd argue that you asked, is it a twofer? Probably a bit of a twofer, but I'd say that 20% of that twofer is on the reduced interchange, and the overwhelming value that merchants will realize over time is on the marketing side of things.
So we talk about retailers as if they're all the same, and of course we know that there are all sorts of different types of retailers. There's the everyday low-price national retailer. They're the specialty retailers that tend to have higher margins. They're local retailers. They're regional retailers. How would you parse the answer here for the different types of retailers? Robert, I think you've been working a lot on the local side. Could you take a shot at this one for us?
Yeah, I think, when you look at retailers, if you look big box, they have huge investments in POS systems. They have a decision to make. How do I tie mobile into my existing infrastructure? Do I treat it as a standalone opportunity? And depending on your viewpoints, it depends on how many relationships you can establish, and the definition of wallet can change then. You look at QSRs who have no money to invest in razor-thin margins, but actually work in the community with nonprofits we work with heavily that are still handling physical orders. And for them, they have no membership. So mobile represents a whole new change in the way they interact with the community. And so depending on you segment the market space, it really depends on the value proposition. So it's not just the cost of the money, it's not the convenience. It's in some cases like breaking the sales channel, breaking the line. When you go to Fry's to buy merchandise, there's someone at the store that checks off and looks at your receipt. Well, why do I need to do that? I can pay right there in the store, and as I'm walking out, they can still see the fact, they can pull up the receipt. So there are ways to take advantage, lowering the total cost of ownership for retailers in some market spaces, and then create new opportunities for loyalty and membership in others. And that's the fascinating part, because the community we talk about mobile is not our grandparents. it's the kids. It's the 9 years old that's got their iPhone now, at least in my community. For others, it's 12 to 15-year-olds that have their iPhone, and they're the ones that's the way they operate. They want their, my son wants, he's got a wallet, he's got our wallet, he's got a few other wallets, and wherever he can, he doesn't have to carry cash, doesn't have to carry another credit card. That's the operating model. So you can either start thinking about how to get, we call revolutionize or evolutionize. And so I think a lot of organizations are just trying to figure out how to evolve. And I think few of us are trying to think about how to revolutionize the marketplace. Take the next leap forward to where that community is brought through versus at a very high friction rate that is going on today.
So you talk about revolutionize and evolutionize, and let's use that as a way to think about the future. And there's an attempt at the crystal ball earlier today, so I'm not buying them back from you. If you look out 5 years, what does this world of mobile wallets look like in 5 years? And then what are some baby steps that we take to actually start to make this real in the next 2 to 3 quarters? So long vision, baby steps.
Yeah, so I think the long-term vision is that it's an open wallet. It means that issuers that have their card, whether they're NFC enabled or not, retailers have their own cards, prepaid products, the underbank have their own mechanism. Those all go in the wallet, whether, as the Corduro community, whether it's those payment vehicles are actually parked inside or in the cloud in our systems, or we have the authorization of the cardholder to go out to the repository that holds those credentials to gain them to present the payment. And that's how we visualize the future is that there are multiple containers of payment cards, ACH, whether it be in your local community or worldwide, that organizations like the ones represented here and out here that will provide interfaces so that we can interact and make it a seamless experience, because ultimately if it's not seamless, then it's creating friction and defeating the whole concept of membership and value of the channel. And so the small steps I see to that is something that we're pushing forward this year is a set of standards for interoperability for wallets. So in order to enable organizations to, really consumers, to use their wallet. So rather than being like PayPal where you're a moderated payment system and you have to go to PayPal and they moderate the entire experience, we think that's the wrong view. We think we all need to start making steps to where we're an unmoderated open platform.
I think it's still evolving. From Mike's on and on. You'd ask for a short-term and a long-term view. I think long-term, I wouldn't say 5 years, but maybe a little bit longer too. The device is the wallet. It's not like a specific app on it. I think it's your device. That's the wallet. There's multiple ways to make a payment from the device. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now, even with the, let's say, lack of NFC, it's still not stopping me from actually buying something using my device. I might go online and do it, but I am buying something using my device. So it's an integration of the various things that we're talking about in terms of the various mechanisms to make a payment, be it an NFC type transaction, be it a online payment, be it a cloud-based payment, be it a whatever other standard comes up at that time. It's all on the same device. So the device you carry, you prefer carrying that device versus carrying your wallet. So that's one change. That's not short term. It's going to take a little bit. You still need to carry your ID. But as it moves into that direction, that's where it's going to end up. In the short term, I think there's a lot of initiatives going on that are helping users make a decision around what they like their wallet to be. And I think that's going to be the driving force. If you look at anyone's wallet right now, what they have in their pocket is they're going to have a few cards, their ID card, their access badge, or something like that. That's all in their wallet right now. And there's a certain loyalty that you have with either the core brand card that you have in there, be it your loyalty points, be it whatever it is that you have in there. And there's a reason that you use that one particular card. So for a consumer to actually move into the mobile space, they want to get a similar benefit structure created around why they chose that particular payment product, and if they can leverage that into their mobile device. So the schemes that would offer more of those functionalities are going to be the ones that are going to stay. But I don't think there's going to be one scheme. There's going to be several schemes that are going to compete, and the competition is going to keep going on. Yeah. And in the end, the consumers are going to decide which scheme works. It's like, no one would have guessed there would be 500,000 apps in the App Store, but there are. but less than 5% of them actually do anything. The rest of them are just there. So it's going to be the same with the wallets. There's going to be hundreds of different types of wallets that are out there. But some of them will be large. The others will be part of the long tail where it benefits some people, they like it, and the rest, most of the majority don't really care for it.
So much for the killer app with 500,000 on the iPhone.
There you go, yeah.
Well, and no question the consumer is going to drive it. So I'm going to answer your question from the perspective of the consumer. You ask what's the world going to look like in 5 years, and I think it will mean that me, a consumer, I've changed my behavior. When I walk into a retail location, I don't set foot in there without opening my app and understanding that experience with that retailer or the brands that I'm going to that retailer to buy. So I've opened that app, I've changed my behavior, I've associated whatever different accounts I want to associate, whatever offers I want to associate, and then I go pick up my products and I tender the transaction. So that's the 5-year horizon, which is a fundamental disruption in payments behavior. And I personally view that as an inevitable step. So how do we get there? What are those baby steps, as you asked? I think it's providing that consumer with sufficient value to change his or her behavior along the way. Yep. And we all love to sit around and talk about reduced interchange, and no question, critical part of the short-term equation, but I as a consumer don't care. I'm not going to change my behavior because somebody's saving a half a point on a transaction.
So I have one more question before I'm going to throw it to the audience, and John, maybe you can take the first crack at this. We've alluded to the consumer experience, and what makes for a compelling consumer experience from usage, and what would be an example of a non-payment application? We've talked a lot about payments and a lot about loyalty, but what's out there beyond sort of the payments and loyalty cards that you think might be part of that? So compelling experience, a non-payment piece of the wallet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, at this point, oops, there's a long-term horizon. It's hard to think of things that don't involve payments that are influencing the point of sale right now. Obviously, they're combined with a bunch of different assets. To Dustin's earlier point, I think it's really the combination, again, of those assets in the new medium. So you don't want to talk about loyalty, but I think loyalty is absolutely key to throw into this. When Starbucks first launched, and I'll just keep referencing them just because the data's out there, they didn't have loyalty. When loyalty launched about 3 months later, you fundamentally saw the consumer behavior change. People literally wanted just to see the star drop. And we get back in line to have another transaction to see the star drop. Yeah. So I think
so there's a gamification, actually, of the experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the ability to leverage the medium in an interactive way while on the go that'll change the difference to Dustin's point. If you don't have mobile in 5 years and a consumer walks up to your store, they're going to be disappointed. And I just want to, before I get cut off, the 5-year horizon, I think the people sitting in this room, the unfortunate part is there's a sort of belief that PayPal, Google, ISIS, somebody will show us the way. I think the retailers sitting in the room are absolutely the ones who should be influencing the way along with their consumers, not necessarily just following what everybody else predicts. Jim, I'll poke fun at him, last year was up on the stage saying this barcode thing would never work, but Starbucks has 3 million customers and they're their customers and it's their data. So own your experience, own your brand, own your data.
Good. Let's take this opportunity to open to the floor. And I'm going to ask the panelists at the end for some final advice for retailers. So I'll come back to you on that, John and Dustin. So we have time for a handful of questions.
Questions? Here we go.
This is Stephen from Walgreens. A lot of times when you hear mobile wallets, there's often a push for mobile offers as well. How do you see mobile offers fitting into the mobile wallet ecosystem?
I'll jump on that first, but it's absolutely integral for almost everybody we talk to. That's the core piece. And again, there's physical mailer costs, right, that immediately come off the equation. If you're a Bed and Bath customer, and everybody knows you get those mailers every week, that's a rather large, I would imagine, expensive offer. The targeting of mobile, and specifically, again, when they're physically near your location, everybody's seen the stats. I mean, the numbers go through the roof. So tying that to a tender-type program that's preferential for you and a loyalty program is absolutely inherently part of the platform. And almost everybody we talk to on the merchant side is using this as a way to get off of old systems, old economics, and convert over to new economics.
Yeah, and some of those new economics, I mean, in your case, I think you're with Walgreens, you said. A CPG, a consumer product good company, would far rather give out 1,000 $5 coupons than 1,000,000 50-cent coupons. Right. So the ability to, through a mobile app, to make that a one-to-one relationship with a customer, you're able to target that customer, deliver a deeper value, and everybody wins. So I think mobile reshapes that whole offer delivery paradigm.
And I guess part of my point is a lot of the focus with mobile wallet has been around just tender and around payment and targeting of demographics, like you said, for offers. But how you reconcile offers, how you do accounting of offers, and how you deal with, there's more to offers than just pushing
Sure.
marketing, right?
Yeah, and it's one of the core reasons we work with InComm actually is to have the back end relevancy to actually something smart on the phone, something smart on the back end, and leveraging pipes that exist, because without that sort of handshake, it is, to your point, I mean, it's more deliberate and targeted, but it's still a relatively dumb offer, for lack of a better term, right?
I think part of it, it's from the offers mechanism perspective, the fact that you are in the store, you're user aware, you're device aware, you're location aware. I mean, you're already aware of what they've just bought. I mean, there's a lot of analytics that can be put in play right there in terms of targeting that offer to the user. And just tapping a phone and making a payment is not going to make a mobile wallet. We're pretty convinced on that. The first 3 times it's cool. 4th time it's business as usual. I mean, you don't really think about it again. So you're really not solving an issue. I mean, swiping a card is equally the same. It's what you're trying to do is how do you upsell the consumer while they're in the store, and how do you integrate that? But there's no one answer on the offer side too. I think there's several platforms that are being proposed right now for offers and integration, be it just a offer with a barcode on it, or offer it when you tap NFC and it's automatically redeemed, and so forth. End of the day, I think the retailer can decide which type of mechanisms they can offer, or what makes sense for them from a business case perspective within their existing infrastructure and within their retail store, and what kind of products they're carrying. So I mean, it's a CPG type of environment. When you go to the store and they give you a paper coupon after you made the transaction, that paper coupon is lost. No one's going to come back and use that paper coupon again. The fact that that coupon stays in your device the next time you're in the store and that thing's popping up saying that, by the way, last time you were here, you're going to get $5 off. It's a kind of a reminder notification that's already there, and that doesn't mean that you have to open the app as you enter the store. It's the fact when you're making the transaction, automatically that thing's showing up. By the way, did you know about that? I think that's the level of interactivity that you're getting with their Office platform that you would have never gotten with paper or plastic.
Yeah, and I take it one step differently, Rav, because what we're talking about is kind of what everyone understands today is about loyalty and offers, whether it's retention, but we think about it differently. We think about in terms of who I know in my community, and I want you to give me an offer I can send to my friends. Mm-hmm. And I want you as an organization to be able to see who my friends are in my network and become part of your membership. So that changes the whole context of offers. It's not about me who's just bought and you're trying to upsell me. It's about how do I get my 100 other friends to come to your store and purchase that live in the community, and use me as a facilitator. How you reward me may depend on my secondary. Next time I get the offer, say, hey, would you send this out to your network? What I do with that request.
So a compelling twist on offer is actually to build or find a community, get them to work together.
I think you cannot, we don't separate mobile. We talk about mobile, but in the context of how Corduro talks about it, we talk about social mobile. Mm-hmm. And that's where we see the mobile really does. It changes the way how you interact with your community. Great. And giving organizations the ability to interact through you.
I think it's also the user and consumer aware part is really important. I mean, Google offers sends me, 50% off in the best salon in San Francisco. I don't need a salon. I've got no hair. What am I going to do over there? So it's like, it's not helping me in any way. Why would I even go for that offer? So you got to know who I am and what I'm doing. I think that's why you get 50 Groupons a day or something. You're just going to ignore every one of them because none of them apply to you. But that one particular thing that if you can get the analytical engine enough that it's targeting what you're doing, what you buy in that store, and what you're going to come back for, and they know your buying behavior, that's the one that you're going to use.
We talk about the phone as being a mobile phone, but really it's a personal phone. It's the ultimate personal data collection device. We have time for another question or two.
Hi, I'm Mike Delagrange with Vivotech, and just like to ask the panel what your thoughts are about, we've heard some things about geofencing, geotargeting, and walking by a store that you don't intend to go to and you get, a message that something's 50% off. Does that look like it might be intrusive? Is that considered spam? And do you guys think that it's going to be a physical opt-in one time so that you don't get a lot of messages that you're not interested in and just turn the whole thing off?
So the question's about geofencing. Helpful? If so, how? Or is it intrusive? Quick response from each of the panelists.
It can get intrusive. If I'm walking by 5 stores in a mall and every store's popping up with a message, it's going to get intrusive because I'm going to go into ignore mode real quick. So it's kind of like, you know, you're either window shopping, and you're window shopping at that store, and it's now, when it works is that they know what your interest is. You're staying at that store, you're looking at something, and then, by the way, it's more informational in terms of what you're looking at is this, 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 and here's the history behind it. Kind of like what a really good salesperson at store would try to do with you, trying to explain what the product is, what kind of offer, whatever it is that's around it. That would make more sense. But, you know, just walking by and pop, 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 yeah, that's going into the delete button.
Yeah,
right
and
Any counter views from others in the panelists? See it differently?
Don't see it differently at all. It's just a marketing tactic that will evolve like so many marketing tactics have done before.
Okay, good. We have time for one more question if there is one out there.
Sorry about that.
Big hike over to table
Big hike. You could just wait
33.
for me to get over there. I'd appreciate it. I want to make sure everybody can hear your question.
I've got just one comment I wanted to, there's one thing that we didn't talk about that was raised about interchange when we talk about mobile or personal payments on phones. And I think the retailers necessarily, with looking at building their own network, ought to consider instead arguing that mobile payments are the most secure payment regardless of the technology. Because that mobile phone is well-defined in a well-defined network. So with a wallet embedded and knowledge about that, the providers like Corduro and others can actually assert, literally authenticate the user of that payment transaction. And Visa and MasterCard need to eventually recognize 5 years out, 6 years out, with pressure from retailers, that that's just as good as a card-present transaction. Actually, it's more secure.
Great. Final question from the floor.
Hi, Doug Morgan with CSAM. To what extent do you think that the lack of standardization of last-mile protocols, proximity protocols for coupons, receipts, loyalty, and the like is holding back the adoption of mobile wallets? And what do you see happening in terms of attempts to really lock that up, whether it's with QR codes or 14443 or 18092?
So lack of standards holding us back, and how is it solved? That's a big question. So if we can just take a quick shot from the panel.
Yeah, just quickly on our side, the folks we work with are typically the innovators, right? They're going to figure out a way that causes the least amount of friction. They'll make it work, and they're working to standardize the industry on behalf of people moving slowly, right? It's not holding them back. I think the bigger problem on adoption is the confusion around what kind of control you have in the space in general and all the things you should bring to the table, and how, to your earlier question, how do you get there with baby steps and march there? It's been less around standardization and more around how do I do this and not get overwhelmed by it and have a committee internally that has 17 different agendas, at least on our side.
Yeah, and I actually think that debate, which is a very valid point, has slowed the whole process of mobile technologies and the adoption of it, which I think is a shame because, you know, you're right. People will figure that out, and the same solution may not be applied ubiquitously, right? There may be one solution for some retailers, other solutions for another retailers, but consumers aren't adopting that technology. Consumers are adopting the benefit of a mobile application, right. And I think if we focus on that first, those redemption technologies will certainly come. At InComm, we've got a couple of very novel redemption technologies that we're introducing to retail together with CorFire that we think help, certainly, but yeah, experience first, and then I believe that will be solved different for different retailers.
I think from the back end perspective, yes, it's the more you're going to throw out there, the more complex it's going to get. It's really bright out there; I can barely see you. But the more different types of technology you're going to put in there for redemption, the more confusing it's going to get. But yeah, it is, you know, should not be the reason to not even put one out there. I mean, at least start with one. Maybe just start with a barcode or something that's simple to start off with, and start building it off over there. There's no reason to stop at that. The device is already in the user's hand. Why not go from there? If that works, great. And you know, Starbucks did that with the barcode app basically, and it works. And they got people coming back in. So I think it's more to take the risk and do it once right, and then you can leverage as many other different technologies onto it as they become available.
Robert, very briefly.
Yeah, I think in terms of consumer adoption, standards will not impact consumers. That's really geared by the organizations delivering the apps. In the back end, make retailers and make payments or wallets more ubiquitous. There'll have to be some form of standardization. I mean, I think all of us here, at some stage in our development of our platforms where we're moving that direction and trying to find partners in which to agree. But it's kind of like herding cats, right? So everybody has their opinion. They all got bright guys, and everyone wants to sort of do it their own way for their own reasons. So I think to hit the long-term vision, the crystal ball 5 years out, that's going to have to happen. Yeah. But that won't be something that will be visible to consumers and to some extent not even to retailers.
Right. So a lot of scrambling and a lot of innovation. In the last 2 minutes here, what I'd like to do is ask each of the panelists in maybe 2 or 3 sentences, if you can, what parting advice would you offer to the retailers that are in this room and that are around the country as they think about mobile commerce and mobile payments? Robert, maybe we could start with you.
I would think about mobile payments, commerce, and wallets more of a change the way you look at it. Think about it as a community. That's where we talk about it. It changes your viewpoints of how you interact, because ultimately when you place when Home Depot places a store next to Lowe's, they seem to get as much business as Lowe's does. And the reason why is because they're interacting with the community slightly differently. They're serving a particular need. Mm-hmm. Mobile's no different. So you've got to be thinking about how do I serve my community and how I interact with them, not just that initial point of sale, but beyond that when they leave my store. And that doesn't matter, and that's a cross-channel conversation. So you just can't narrow to mobile, and that's
terrific. Amit, very briefly.
I read an interesting email about things that will disappear in our lifetimes. Post office, newspapers, magazines. They're going to disappear over the next 10 years. So what's left? Mobile devices and tablets. That's what people are going to be carrying. That's their primary source of news, information, advertising, everything. So it's happening. It's going to happen. People talk about NFC and when is NFC going to happen. From our perspective, NFC is already happening. It's part of the equation. There's different models that people are proposing for NFC or hybrid NFC and stuff like that. All that's happening. I've got a locator app on my mobile device right now. Within a half-mile radius of here, there's about 55 merchants that accept contactless transactions. You know, that's a pretty good set for me. I'm in the middle of Chicago. So I think it's happening now. It's now how do you leverage the 3 main assets that you have on a mobile device? You have a large interactive screen. You have a touch point with the consumer when they're making a transaction, which is a major decision point in that cycle. And then you have a connectivity back to the system at the back end and how you leverage. If you can leverage and figure out something to do with those 3, I think for marketers, that's probably the best trifecta you can get.
It's a big dream to be had. Dustin.
The mobile app that retailers start with today will be very different from the mobile app that retailers end with in 5 years, right? It will start from loyalty and basic gift card payments and evolve to a fundamentally disruptive tool for marketing innovation down the road. So there will be a tipping point at some point over the next 24 months. And I believe, and I genuinely believe, that retailers that sit on the sidelines during that this next transformative 24 months will have a heavy price to pay when they do not have a retail application, a retail tactic or strategy, and everybody else does. So to answer your question, my advice would be get moving.
Get in the game.
Yeah, my 3 things would be embrace the medium, right? Look at it as what it is. It's a new medium, and do something new with old programs or completely new programs. Second piece would be look for the lowest pain point, right? Friction. Reduce your friction when you're going to mobile and iterate. You can get to where you want to be in a year or 2, but get something out there, get some learnings, and just iterate and build on those learnings. And the last, and maybe most importantly, is don't give up the ship, right? It's your brand, it's your customer. You've worked long and hard. Keep them as your customer.
So those are good final words. You are the captain of your ship, of your own ship. I'd like to thank CorFire, InComm, Device Fidelity, and Corduro for their contributions, but in a personal way, Jon, Dustin, Amit, and Robert for sharing your wisdom and perspective on how the mobile wallet will be demystified. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dekkers.
Thank you, Dekkers, very much.